Stephanie Schaefer, and you're listening to the NorthStar Narrative, a podcast from NorthStar Academy. I want to thank you for joining us. I hope you're encouraged, challenged, and motivated by what you learned today. Enjoy the story. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I am really pumped about our special guest today. Mr. Blake Weaver is joining us. It's just going to be such a cool story because I know I've never talked to anyone that started out as a NICS student and now has made his way to the new NICS president.
Very hard to believe. Yeah, I appreciate the introduction. I hope it's a fun conversation today. It's hard to believe that I am sitting in this seat talking to you about this topic, but I love sharing my story. So that'll be fun. Yes. And I hope it's interesting to somebody.
It's gonna be. So, Blake's gonna share all about his time with NICS because he's not only been a student, but he's been a staff member and a board member, and is now moving on to the executive team just very recently. And he's got a wonderful family, so I can't wait to hear about his kids. And I know his wife, Christy, she's amazing, and that he loves to hunt and fish and do all kinds of stuff like that. So I want you to share about that, a little bit about your background, your education. And we just want to know all things Blake Weaver today.
Sure.
We're going to start off with the one chip challenge.
Oh, mercy.
I had no idea what that was.
Mercy.
I had to look it up.
Did you research it?
I researched it.
Okay.
It's literally one chip for like $18.
Yeah. All right. So I got to give you like a 30-second, like what this is about.
Okay. Yes.
And everybody should be warned. It's like, seriously. So this was like a month ago. Some of my coworkers at the place where I was working before I made this transition approached me on a Friday at like 2:00, and they brought in these individually packaged chips, like a Dorito chip. They're like $18 a piece, and challenged me. So 3 guys said, "We've got 4 chips. You're the 4th. The challenge is you've got to eat the chip, and then you got to stay alive." Really, like you got to try not to die. And so I did it. I had no idea what I was getting into, and it was the most miserable experience that I remember having. So it's a Dorito chip caked in the hottest peppers in the world. So Carolina Reaper, Ghost Pepper, the whole thing. Doesn't seem like a big deal, but it wrecked me and the other guys. So if a friend, quote, friend ever approaches you with this, first thing you got to realize, they're not a true friend. It was horrible. It was horrible. So for those of you listening in, you got to check it out. And if you have teenagers, you should dare them to try the one chip challenge.
Oh gosh, I can't even imagine. So did you have liquid nearby, or did you have to eat the whole chip without drinking anything?
So I should have known how serious this was going to be, because the rest of the guys chugged Pepto-Bismol before they ate the chip. True. I'm not making this up. True story. And I thought that was a little weird. And let's just say they were much more prepared than me for how that was going to work.
Do you have pictures?
I do, but not public.
We might have to get one. That we
can't share those. Don't ask my wife.
We can put a comment down below here on YouTube.
That's right. Yeah. So I'll tell you, that night, that was on a Friday, that night, we had company over, and I didn't even see our company that night. I don't even know what they talked about, what they were doing. I was elsewhere. It was tough.
And are you still talking to these supposedly friends?
We're not friends. I deleted them off of social media. I don't talk to them. Yeah. It was wild.
Woo. Yeah, I'm getting hot thinking about the chip.
Yeah.
Cool. The one chip challenge. So would you recommend this to anyone to do ever?
I wouldn't, because I am a true friend, right? And that's the only reason why. Maybe my enemy.
Yeah, do you have any enemies?
My enemy. Yeah. No, I don't think I have any enemies, but nobody that I'd want to give that challenge to. No way.
Gosh, no. Okay. Now, go Google it if you haven't seen the one chip challenge. I did watch a quick video and saw somebody else eating it.
Yeah. It's a thing.
Yeah. Crazy. All right. Awesome. Well, let's move in. I want to hear a little bit about your family. And I know that your kids have nicknames.
They do.
We want to hear about those nicknames and just what it's like to be in the Weaver household.
Wow. You've done some research to know my kids have nicknames. So I'm married to a wonderful lady named Christy. Her name is Christy. We've been married for almost 18 years. You know what? We may have to edit that. It's 17 or 18 years.
Oh, no, we're sleeping.
Yeah. So, I don't, we're teenagers in our marriage, 17 or 18 years. 3 kids. I got a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old. 2 boys. They're the oldest, and then a little girl. And, Christy and I were talking just the other day. So life has been super chaotic having kids that are that close together and this young. But we're moving into just a really fun stage with them where they're independent in a lot of ways. We're not changing diapers all the time, and they can dress themselves.
Oh, yeah. I love that.
Right.
Love that face.
Right. But really,
don't even really care what they dress
right?
in. Just like,
who cares?
get dressed.
Just get whatever shoes you want to wear. You don't have to match. But more than that, what's really cool is they're actually becoming really curious about the things of the Lord. So, you teach them, Bible stories and scripture memory, and you try to pour into them the truths of the gospel, and you just hope it connects, right? They're moving into a phase where they're starting to resonate a little bit. And that's really exciting. It's what you hope for, what you pray for. See it happening is pretty neat.
Yeah, really awesome. All right, tell us about their nicknames.
Yeah, so each kid has a nickname that we did not give them. Our pediatrician actually created these nicknames that just stuck. So our oldest son, his nickname is the Mayor, which I can't explain these other than the pediatrician just decided to do this. And then my middle son, his name is the Dep, so Deputy Mayor. And then when our daughter came along, he named her Miss Commiss, which is like the commissioner. And so it's wild. They've stuck a little bit. We've had some fun with it. They're kind of growing out of those nicknames a little bit, but it was fun in the beginning. Yeah.
Any little costumes or outfits that went with their nicknames?
We've done some funny things like that. We've dressed them in Halloween stuff like that before, which is pretty neat. Yeah.
So I know you like to hunt and fish and stuff. Do the kids, does Christy go with you?
No, I try not to take Christy with me. But really, more than hunting and fishing, I just have a passion for the outdoors. I grew up, there were some mentors that I had growing up, either in my family or close friends of the family that were gracious enough to introduce me to the outdoors. And what really stuck with me was the outdoors is such an awesome way to experience God as our creator. And you can understand that in theory, but you can't really understand it, I think, in your heart until you experience it out in God's creation. And so I'm just passionate about introducing others, particularly my kids, to the outdoors. And so hunting and fishing seem to be that mechanism for which I get to do that the most. And it's a blessing. My kids love it. All 3 of them love it. And even this past year, Christy started to get into it a little bit too. She had a pretty unique experience harvesting an animal. I never thought that would ever be possible, but she did. So it was kind of fun. The whole family's into it now.
That's so awesome. Yeah. Yes, having that passion together.
Yeah,
bringing the unity and just doing something fun together.
That's right. Yeah,
that's so cool. We definitely have to have a family picture. We'll put that on here. I don't know if you already sent one in, but
maybe. Yeah.
Do that. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
All right. Well, let's go back to what it was like when you were growing up, and how did you get overseas with your family, and how did you find Ouijambu, the NICS school, the very first NICS school that was created, and actually we're going into our 40th year.
Amazing.
With the NICS.
Amazing to think about that. Yeah. So, I was born and raised mainly in the South, right? So I was born in Memphis. So this area is sort of home to me, although my dad was a church planner growing up. So our family transitioned locations about every 5 years. And I was in high school. my freshman and sophomore year here at North Point, actually, just right up the road. And I was a 16-year-old kid. Okay, so I'm sorry, 15. So imagine this: a 15-year-old teenager, had a great just support community, great friend group, very involved in the school, involved in athletics, involved in the church. Just sort of your prototypical dream scenario for a teenager. And my parents decided to go serve in Uijeonbu, South Korea with NICS, which meant that as a family, we were going to transition together. So my parents dropped that atomic bomb on myself. I have an older sister and a younger brother. And we transitioned to South Korea when I was 15 years old. And that was when I experienced another culture for the first time, and also a NICS school for the first time. And if I'm just being totally honest with you, Stephanie, that was the most catastrophic event of my upbringing. It was horrible. I mean, initially, right? I was ripped. I saw it as just from a victim mentality. I was ripped from a awesome community to be placed in a scenario that I just knew nothing about. It was so literally foreign to me. And I was really vulnerable. I just remember those were critical moments in my life where I was questioning everything. God, if you're a good God, why would you do this? Lord, if you really exist, how could this be good? Right. And I was on the brink of just like, I just remember seeing like two possible roads: utter rebellion, right? And just kind of forgetting everything about my faith that I hadn't learned up until that point. That was one path. The other path was, maybe God, you are in control, and this is an intentional thing for me. Let me press in there. And in the crosshairs of that were a group of NICS teachers that saw that in me, right? I was wearing that on my sleeve. It was very obvious. And they latched onto me and would not let go. And that was what was so life-changing to me. God used those teachers and their intentionality with me to help me see the hope of the gospel. And that changed the trajectory of my life and my experience as a student.
That's incredible. Definitely want to land back there on the heart of a NICS teacher.
Yep.
Just incredible. But we've had a lot of episodes about TCKs, sure. MK. So you were at this point a third culture kid.
Yeah.
TCK. So tell us a little bit. Did you know you were a TCK at that moment? When did you realize that? Just the impact that's had on even through your adult life.
Yeah. Wow. That's a huge question. No, I had no idea what a TCK was at that point. I just thought I was a really weird looking kid that stuck out in a culture and had no idea how to relate. And so for me, the first day that we landed in South Korea, I remember just survival instincts kicking in and thinking, there's a whole lot that I've got to figure out. And the faster I can figure it out, maybe the more I can relate to people around me. But it was lonely. I mean, I was at that point, the only American kid, Caucasian kid, in my whole class and in several grades. And so, the living life as a minority was like a light switch. I went from being never the minority here in the States to overnight identifying as a minority. And it was just, it felt so lonely and so difficult to try to relate to everybody else, but you had no idea how to do it. And so real tough transition for me. And I'm super extroverted, right? And I was that way as a kid. And so I remember just it wasn't the same. You couldn't relate to kids the same. But God in His grace and His goodness allowed that transition to happen very quickly. And it wasn't long before I just folded into that community, which is really cool.
The NICS community is incredible.
Yeah.
All over the globe.
Yep.
The global reach that NICS has had, for 40 years. it just is remarkable. So give us some little, a glimpse into one or two of the teachers that latched onto you and how God used that teacher or teachers to help you press in. Because I love those words, press in.
Yeah.
Because you could have gone, even with those teachers, you could have rebelled.
Right.
But those teachers came around you in such a way. What did they do? What did they say? How were they just sitting there with you that caused you to press into Jesus?
It's a really good question. I've thought a lot about this over the years, because it's one thing to say, I had some really influential people, mentors in my life. I think a lot of us can say that, and I think it's true for a lot of us. But what are the components that make those people so special? For me, I can think of two individuals in particular in a group of about 5. So, and they know who they are. So I want to give them credit as a group. Like, all of them impacted my life in a very special way. 2 of them I can specifically remember were, and this is so important because this bleeds into so many other areas of my life, even philosophy of leadership now. They were very transparent with me. So this is interesting because I was very vulnerable. I mentioned that. Kind of living life on the sleeve of my shirt, right? I was very outwardly expressing the challenges. Instead of those teachers just speaking to me about how I should fix that, right? Like, get over it, fix it. Here's scripture, here's a prescription. Instead of that, they shared their own vulnerability and their own adapting to a new culture with me. And so I was vulnerable, they were vulnerable, and right there created this sense of mutual weakness that we shared. And then we were able to help each other. So I went from this perspective of like, I need all this help to, hey, I see your weakness. And then let me encourage you as a student to a teacher. It is not the typical approach, right? That's super risky for a teacher to be really vulnerable with a student. It just doesn't happen often because there's risks associated with that. But for me, that's what turned the tide. Was, whoa, I can identify with an adult that's experiencing some of these same things. And that led to a whole new trajectory.
Love that. Love what God, He always, and I've said this over and over on the podcast episodes when I just sit and talk to people, that He always gives us what we need at the moment. I mean, He connects those dots and provided. He knew your heart and He didn't leave you.
That's right.
But He was with you. And
That's
He
right.
uses people, community. And the NICS community is incredible.
It's amazing. Yeah. I heard, so Lydia, who works at the NICS home office and works in school operations, I was talking with her the other day about this very thing. And she said what makes a NICS teacher and just the NICS environment so special is that when you have a Christian, and this goes for Christian education in general, when you have a Christian teacher in a classroom with a student, you have an opportunity for what she refers to as holy ground moments. It's amazing. Those dynamics exist, and then the gospel just comes to life in that environment. And I totally agree. That was my story. Several of those holy ground moments as a student that then led to just a life of really wanting to pursue Christ.
That's good. And I'm just thinking right now of who might be listening at this moment, and it might be someone that's just checking out NICS.
Yeah.
And they're like, should I go overseas? What is that going to look like? What would you say to that maybe young teacher that's just about to graduate, and they're just like, will I have any impact on students?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say take the leap. Take the leap. It'll change your life. It'll make you more vulnerable than maybe you've ever been, which also means that would make you more dependent upon Christ than you've ever been. Not that you can't experience that dependency without going, but for sure, putting yourself in a foreign context where you don't know, there's so many unknowns, creates just intimacy with Christ that is amazing. And there are kids out there just like me that are super vulnerable and in need of someone to share that experience with. And I would absolutely say, you got to do it.
Oh, yeah. Do it. Do it. And we've got to have you come and talk to NorthStar students. So Alan Hester is our new, I don't know if you know Alan.
I do know Alan. Yeah,
our spiritual life director. He spent 10 years at Yongsan International Christian School in Seoul, South Korea.
Yep.
And now he is our spiritual life director. And he's amazing. And he has started, so we have so many TCKs and MKs at NorthStar, and he started a group, and it has just exploded.
Wow.
So it'd be awesome to have you come live virtually and just share your story.
Would love
that
to.
They would.
Yeah, I'll share my story with whoever wants to listen.
Oh, they will love it. So yes, got to mark that down. All right. So you came back to the States, I guess. Tell us a little bit about your education journey and how you came to be on staff at NICS.
Yeah. That's really an interesting thing. So I went to school, got an undergraduate degree from Liberty University. And, but more importantly, I met my wife there. I was really going to school for that anyway. Just kidding, but not really. So we got married right after school. I tried to get married to her while we were in school, but her dad said no. So we had to wait until we graduated. So we finished up school and we moved from Virginia back to the North Mississippi, Memphis area, which is sort of home for me. And I went to work at a local bank and was really enjoying it, just doing commercial lending. And long story short, NICS became a customer of mine, really through the relationship that I had shared with the Hale family. And so doors opened there for us to do business together, which for me was such an honor because it was the organization that just had such an instrumental impact on my life. To be able to serve them from a banking standpoint was just a lot of fun. But Joe Hale recruited me to come work at the home office. And I started out in a fundraising role with NICS and really had a hard time with that just because my personality, I don't love asking people for money. That was just hard for me. And so didn't have much success doing that. And so my role shifted into a new projects role, which was assisting Joe Hale with new project development, which is really school startups, mergers, acquisitions, and had a blast. Learned from Joe for about 8 years total was my stint.
You got to travel all over, right?
In 8 years, I think I traveled to 30, maybe 35 countries and just looked at that as a tremendous blessing, great international exposure, learned the network really well. But most importantly, got to learn directly from the founder and the president. It's awesome.
Once again, God connecting dots and giving you what you need. You don't even 100%. Know what's coming in the future.
Right. Hindsight is so clear. Did not realize that was happening at that moment. So thankful, though.
I love that. We just got to stop for a moment and point that out because you might, if you're listening right now, you might think, why am I doing what I'm doing? Or I don't understand. But you never know. We're always in a training ground.
Always.
For something. Speak to that just for a moment.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. So I would say precisely that, Stephanie. God is always intentional. He's always in control. And even when terrible things happen. So there's no way possible I would be the person I am today without the atomic bomb being dropped on me as a 15-year-old kid, right? Thought that was the worst thing ever. Turned out to be one of the most important things ever. My time at NICS as an employee didn't realize the intentionality behind what God was doing to prepare me. I could go on. There's 5 or 6 of those real pivotal moments in my life where in the moment, I honestly thought, God, you've taken your hands off of this deal. Do you really know what you're doing? How can this be good? And every time it has been a resounding yes. Blake, I feel like God's telling me, Blake, yes, I'm sovereign. I know what I'm doing. Don't question, just trust, right? So yeah, that's what I would say to that.
Yeah. He is looking for a man or a woman, girl or a guy, to follow in faith.
That's right.
He's just looking for us to have faith and follow.
Right. That's right.
And when we do, it's phenomenal.
Right. And it doesn't mean, like, I want to be careful too. It doesn't mean that we can't question, right? Like, I think we are, the Lord has wired us to be emotional beings, right? And we wrestle with just doubts and frustrations, and the Lord is in those moments with us. He walks through those moments with us. So I want to be transparent about that too. It hasn't all been.
Because it doesn't mean you have faith.
That's right.
That you do not have faith just because you're questioning.
That's right.
Oh gosh, I go through times. I've been a Christian for years and years and years, and I'll have a whole day of what is happening. Is there even God? Where are you?
Right.
I mean, yeah, even now, just because there's so much going on. Think about everything that we're hearing or experiencing ourselves.
Yeah.
Just difficult.
Yep.
Difficult time.
Yep. Most difficult in tragedy, right? When things are going well, it's pretty easy to see God in those things, at least from my perspective. But it's in the real weak moments or tragedy in which you just can't reconcile things, and you have to trust in the qualities of the Lord and in His faithfulness and what He's done throughout Scripture.
Remember.
That's right.
Remember. Go back.
Yeah.
Another little nugget I've picked up along the way. Write stuff down. Journal.
Write it down.
If you're creative, make a monument. I mean, whatever, to what's happened. All right. So, in your head, I don't know if you've made a monument, but you've got that in your head of that time overseas in Ouijanbu, and then your time as a staff member at NICS. So what was that transition like when you left as a staff member? Tell us about that. And then you transitioned at some point to a board member. Yeah.
So this part of my story is still, I find myself still wrestling with a little bit, right? So why would the Lord lead me away from NICS when it was amazing? I've never not been passionate about the organization, and I left NICS for a couple reasons. One, Christy and I had just started having really young kids, and I remember I was traveling like 3 or 4 months out of the year, and our firstborn, Camp, it's his name, he was born, and I went on back-to-back 3-week-long trips. And it was when I came home for a week before that second 3-week trip, I just thought, this is too tough. This season of life, this is good work, but it's the best work for me and my family. And I felt like the Lord was saying, maybe a pivot, like let's pivot in this season. So that was a primary reason why I just felt like the Lord was leading me away. What I didn't realize at the time was that the Lord was leading me away to go get some very important training outside of the organization. And over the past, I've been away from the network for about 6 years. And I say away from the network, meaning wasn't employed here. But I did a variety of things. I worked for a transportation company, worked for a crane and rigging company, and then a technology company. And in each one of those companies, I learned some very critical skills that I think the Lord used to prepare me for where I am today. Not that I'm fully equipped or prepared. God is still doing that in me. But I don't think I could have learned those things had I remained here at NICS. And so, I'm still putting those pieces together, but I'm starting to see it more clearly. But the unique thing about that separation from NICS and from an employment standpoint, the board asked me to serve with them as a board member, which I thought was such a blessing. When you separate from an employment scenario, sometimes that cannot be the best thing, but God was gracious and allowed there to just be a real mutual understanding. And then to jump back on the board and serve the organization in that capacity was a real blessing.
What was that like, being on the board from
It was strange. It was
a big view of all the schools and just like really stepping back?
Yeah.
Did you feel like you're still a part?
I did. It was a really unique transition for me and difficult in some ways because I had all that context from an employee's perspective, and I had to zoom out and maintain just more objectivity from a board standpoint. And it took maybe a year or so for me to try to make that transition. But it was amazing too. So when I say strange, it wasn't unpleasant. It was just a difficult transition. And then to jump on it and see a bigger picture from the board's perspective, again, was such unique training for now in a position where I report directly to that body of people that really oversee the governance of the organization.
How many years did you serve on the board?
I think altogether past 5 years. Yeah.
So now, as of March 14th, was that the first day?
Yeah, first day in the office.
You stepped into the NICS president's role.
Yeah.
And the second president we've ever had, because our founder, Joe Hell, who has been on the podcast, you want to go all the way back to one of the first episodes where he told his story. Just an incredible man of God, family, the Luger family. I mean, there's such an incredible foundation here over the past 40 years. And like you said, God allowed you to walk by him so long, and everything that he has just poured into you. Yeah. So speak a little bit to that, to Dr. Hell, and just what the moment you even thought there might be an opportunity for you to step in this role, what has that been like? How have you transitioned into where you are right now?
Well, if I could be honest with you, I'm still wrapping my head around it, honestly. But I am just beyond excited and so honored to walk in the footsteps of Dr. Hale. I've known the Hale family for a long time, and I've always had tremendous respect for them, and specifically for Dr. Hale, and the groundwork laid. So the way I look at it, NICS has been officially organized for the past 38 years. So we're 38 years old. That's chapter 1. And I think about the foundation laid and what the Lord has accomplished through this ministry within that amount of time is amazing. And it's really a blessing for whoever the next person is, which in this case is me, to help lead the organization into chapter 2. I can't imagine a better foundation. So I feel tremendously blessed kind of walking in. And it's a little daunting, Stephanie, just truthfully, right? It's a big shoes to fill.
Really big.
But what is so cool to me is that there's just an incredible team, the executive team, the field leadership team, directors like you that are leading our schools. And so I look at it as me joining an existing team and structure that is amazing. I just have to try hard not to screw it up.
Okay, so how are you going to do that?
Right.
What's your plan?
I don't think we have long enough together today. I'm still developing a plan. Really, I am. So this is day 10 for me in the office, and the first 10 days have been a whirlwind of learning, assessing, figuring out relationships, where we need to focus, taking a deep look at organizational structure. Do we have the right components in place? If not, what do we need? And so I think I'm very passionate about this, that coming into a role like this for any leader, if the main focus isn't learning before you make changes, I just think that would not be the right thing. And this isn't just my opinion either. I've been reading a resource by Michael Watkins called The First 90, which is one of the top business books of all time, like top 100 business books of all time. And he contends the same, of where your first 90 really should include a deep dive into learning, understanding, before you start to really make any changes. If changes are even needed. Just because you're new doesn't mean you have to make changes, but likely some changes will need to be made. So that's where I'm focusing a lot of my time and energy, and it's been really rewarding. It's been a lot of fun.
What most scares you?
Wow. Man, that is a great question. Somebody asked me this the other day, so I have a little bit
you had
of
a little prep time.
A little prep time. I would lie to you if I said that fear of failure is not a big one to me. I think about the richness of our history to this point, and to make any decision that would minimize that in any way, that's scary to me. I'm very capable of making wrong decisions personally. But I feel like that risk is mitigated because I have such an amazing team, and I really trust the team, especially at the executive level. These are individuals that are walking closely with Jesus, and also have been very open and honest with me to this point. And so together, as we seek the Lord, I feel like we've got a great chemistry and a solid foundation. So that's great. That helps overcome that fear. I'm fearful too that. Let me just say this. So if you think about NICS over the past 12 months, okay, there's been a lot of transition. The founder has transitioned out, and that happened rather unexpectedly. I don't think Dr. Hale was necessarily in his own plan thinking to transition that quickly, but obviously health concerns contributed to that. So the founder is transitioning out, and then the co-founder, Mr. Luger, has long planned on his own retirement at the end of this fiscal year. So in a 12-month period, the organization will have essentially lost its founder and co-founder. So my largest fear is instability at the executive level, right? It's just a concern that I have. I think any leader would have a similar concern. And so it's an area of prayer for me. A lot of concern and effort on how do we stabilize. I'll say this, I'm 10 days into it, and I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I'm very encouraged by the progress that my executive team has made on building trust and learning what it's like to move forward together. So I'm stoked about that. And I don't know where I just want to be honest, I don't pretend to know how that's going to unfold, but I trust that it's going to be really good.
We know it's going to be really good because God is doing it, putting it all together.
That's right. He's at the center.
You talked about instability, but my mind immediately goes to the foundation.
Yeah.
The foundation, the rock we have in Jesus, and then the foundation he's already laid. It's not like those great men are not taking that foundation with them.
Right.
They have built that foundation and left that for the next generations. Yeah. And so you're coming in on a firm foundation.
That's a great point. I appreciate you saying that, Stephanie. This is what I tell my team. Listen, we want to learn what it's like to work with each other. We want to build trust. We want to do all those things. But our biggest priority individually right now is that we trust God first and foremost. We can't really trust each other if our trust in the Lord is not just solid, like you just mentioned. If you got that foundation, we can trust that he's going to work it out for us as we move forward. And I'm confident he will.
He will.
Yeah.
He will. And when we are trusting and being with him, not doing, which is where God has me right now, learning to be.
You're a doer, though.
Oh, I'm a doer.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's do.
So, all right, talk about that.
God is, it's always in my mind, be still. But before you know it, these derailers will come in, stress and busyness and all these things. And it's been 6 hours and I haven't even thought about God or just really learning to be. And I'm intentionally taking some time off.
Okay.
After being here for 14 years.
Okay.
Even talking to outside resources to help, just to learn to be, to make sure I've got the right perspective on everything. And so I think as you just take time, as the executive team takes time, all of the directors, and then everyone is just being with the Lord, he's going to get us all on the same page.
Yep.
And then we're going to be marching together in this amazing team forward.
That's right.
With him.
That's
Does that make sense? I see in middle pictures, and so I just see the marching forward,
like
but it's only can come out of being.
Right.
If you say, "Oh, here's what I got to do," then that's when you're going to make a mistake. That's when we're all going to mess up when we just lean on our own understanding. But my favorite verse ever, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, 2 verses actually. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him, the being, and he will make your path straight.
That's right.
So he's going to make your path straight. He's going to make Nick's path straight. He is not a God of confusion. He is a God of just incredible miracle powers and workings every day. And it's going to be so good. NICS is so fun. God is so good. NorthStar is so amazing. And
I love that resonates with me. And the part about Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 that I've been learning about recently is trusting the Lord with all your heart. I'm guilty of trusting God for tomorrow, but not today. Meaning, like, there are some major decisions on our horizon. And so my prayers and thoughts are like, God, can you solve that thing or that situation? We need you. And I pray fervently for that, but then sort of neglect to pray that God would give me the grace needed today to move towards whatever that is. And then to acknowledge that he's actually giving me the grace and the mercy today. Right.
Awesome.
Yeah. Anyway.
Being in grace upon grace upon grace. Our newest pastor at our church, he's just so grace-filled. And I just always, it's grace upon grace upon grace. Me, I'm a doer and no grace.
Right.
So it's so foreign.
Yeah.
But, but it's just putting the right voice in your head.
Yeah.
And so Jesus is grace. And you've got to have grace.
Tons.
Grace for yourself, grace for your team. We got to have grace for our people and
grace to understand.
There's your plan. Yeah. Be in grace.
Come on. We're solving it right here. Yeah.
No, it's so fun just to look at your life and see this journey that you've been on. And I love and appreciate the vulnerability that I've already seen and heard. And so just tell us about that. I know that is your passion, just to lead through vulnerability. Yeah. What does that really mean for you? And then for somebody that might be listening, everyone's a leader, no matter where you are.
Sure.
How do you do that and do that well?
So vulnerability goes back to what I mentioned to me, what I mentioned about my story as a student. So that teacher reciprocated like my weakness with revealing a little bit of their weakness, right? That led to an authentic, meaningful relationship. So the pathway to authentic relationships is vulnerability, okay? I have studied this to death because I've seen it make such an impact on me personally in all relationships, not just in leadership, but in your family or with your kids or in a discipleship situation, but especially with leadership. It's like this concept really works. There's a guy, he's a Harvard professor named Jeff Polzer, and he's got something called the vulnerability loop, right? This is very practical for any relationship. And let me make a few comments. This is so profound to me. So this is what he says about the cycle of trust. So we want to build trust on leadership teams and in all relationships. And it occurs through a vulnerability loop. So he says, a shared exchange of openness. It's the most basic building block of cooperation and trust. Vulnerability loops seem swift and spontaneous, but they follow the same steps. Right? It's not just a theory, it's practical application. And here are the steps. So person A, let's just use you and me. So Blake sends a signal of vulnerability to Stephanie. Stephanie detects the vulnerability, like, hey, Blake, you're being pretty real and open and honest, right? Third step, Stephanie responds by signaling their own vulnerability. Blake, because you're being vulnerable and showing weakness, it's safe for me to do the same thing. So you send the signal back. I detect the return signal. Hey, Stephanie, you're being real with me. It's amazing. Like, I've got weaknesses. Oh, you've got weaknesses too. So we can be comfortable there. And then a norm is established where I don't think I've got all the answers and neither do you. It's like, okay, now we've got a bedrock for us to work and build a relationship on. Here's the thing. The second person is key. How many times in life have you really desired vulnerability with a friend or a coworker and you try to lay it out there and that person does not reciprocate? And you think, man, I'm sick of that. So I'm going to build a wall, right? I'm not going to let you in. If you're not going to do it back with me, then we can't move forward. And so does the second person pick up and reveal their own weaknesses, or do they cover up and pretend they don't have any? It makes a huge difference in the outcome. I think that's sort of my philosophy summarized about vulnerability. We have to live in such a way that God has created in all of us certain strengths and certain weaknesses. We need each other. It's biblical at the end of the day, right?
So good. But what do you do if the second person doesn't but you can't break relationship with that person because they're on your team or you need them. What do? You
have to keep being vulnerable. This is, I've seen this play out. So a lot of people they're just not comfortable revealing their own weaknesses, but you have to lead from your weakness, which is so counterintuitive. I mean, most people would say, no, you lead from your strengths. I certainly think your strengths are used in fantastic ways. But I mean, even biblically, like Christ's strengths are made perfect in our weakness. That means that it's okay to just be open and honest about your weakness. I was talking to the executive team just yesterday, and we were sort of whiteboarding our unique contribution at the executive level. It was an interesting discussion because it focused on, here's some things that we believe that God has really gifted, like areas in which God's really gifted us, which means here are some other ways in which he hasn't. How should we be flanked on those areas? And then you start to see how a team can come together, but you got to be open and honest about your weaknesses as well, because we're not good at everything. There's some things that, Stephanie, you're really, really good at. I bet you, though, you would
There's
say
some things you're really bad at.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. And if you didn't admit it, then I would just ask your husband, right? You know, he would say, right?
He thinks I think that I can do everything.
Right. I understand that.
Yeah, no, it's so good. So good. I so much appreciate your vulnerability, like I said before, and just sharing these incredible nuggets of wisdom that you have gained along the way. And I really am interested in something you put down on the survey. You said, when I was a young professional, one of my mentors shared with me the secret formula for guaranteed promotions. So we all want a promotion.
That's right.
What is that secret formula?
Yeah, I love this. So I was probably 23, 24 years old. So I'd already kind of gotten into my first career, and just thinking about, man, what do I want to do in life long term? Where do I want my career to grow to? And I was having lunch with one of my mentors. This guy was wildly successful. He was sort of what I wanted to grow into. And I was asking him some really just thought-provoking questions about the future. And he's like, Blake, I've got this secret to like how you can like never not be promoted. And I, you know, when somebody says that to you, you're like, really? You've got that? I want to hear it. And he said, it's 3 things. And this has been so true in my own life. And I've seen it true with every emerging leader. That involves even, I was talking to my nephew just the other day, who's 18 years old, and this is happening for him too. So this is applicable from all ages, right? Here's the 3 things. You're gonna love this because it's really simple, but it's really profound. The 3 things you got to do to never stop getting promoted. Number 1, show up. Really? Show up.
On time?
No, show up.
Just show up at all?
On time really helps. That really helps, right?
Being on time is late in my book.
Consistently show up, number 1.
Show up.
Number 2, work hard. Okay? There's a theme here. You got to show up and you got to work hard. Work hard means if you've got, let's say, you're supposed to be at work for 8 hours. There are a lot of people that try to figure out how to be present for 8 hours, but maybe only work 4, right? Give everything you've got while you're at work. Okay?
All in.
All in. So show up, work hard.
Show up, work hard.
That alone separates so many people.
So many.
I've seen this throughout all the places I've worked. Show up, work hard. Number 3, find ways to contribute value. So what does that mean? It could look like picking up a piece of trash in the parking lot on your way in. It also could look like somebody maybe not asking for your input, but you taking a risk, saying, I have an idea that might contribute. Would you like to hear it? It could look like a variety of things, but those people that really want more are going to find ways not just to critique, but to add value. And if you're that person that can show up, you can work hard, and you will create value by taking initiative, the sky's the limit.
So good.
So
show
simple.
up. You're going to show up today. Work hard wherever you are and add some value.
Add some value.
Add some value. I'm thinking like a recipe, like a cake mix, or like
Yeah.
sometimes think putting in a little vanilla. Are you going to be that vanilla today?
Yep.
Add some value.
That's it.
That's so good.
I love it. Yeah. It's not for me originally, but it's been, man, I've seen it play out so many times.
So good.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for showing up.
Yeah.
All the way back when you were 15.
Yeah.
What, 10th grade? Was that 10th grade when you went over?
10th grade, yeah.
That was so difficult. I know, because that's coming right out of middle school.
Oh my
middle
goodness.
school boys.
Wow. You only knew. Yeah.
You showed up. You pressed in.
Yeah.
Praise God for those just incredibly God-centered NICS missionary teachers
Yep.
that he put in your lives. And if you're listening to this now and you're on the field, we're praising God for you. I'm even praying for you right now in my mind that you're doing the hard
Heroes
work.
to me, yeah.
And if you're looking to go, jump in.
Yeah.
Press in. Show up.
Show up.
Show up. Just get on there and research NICS, NICS.org. Check it out.
So many awesome opportunities available right now.
So many.
Right now.
Check it out. If you're still in high school, check out what it would be like to pursue education.
Yeah.
You can do your student teaching at a NICS school overseas.
That is amazing.
Incredible. Show up. Work hard. So wherever you are right now, if you're in school, if you've got a horrible work environment, press in. I just think back to, Hagar wanted to run away, but God saw her, says, I see you, sent her back. Sometimes we're in hard places.
That's right.
Work
Intentionally,
hard.
Not by accident.
Yeah.
Intentionally, yeah.
Because we're back to I love all the dots that are connecting. We're back to the training ground.
Yeah.
You don't know what God is teaching you right now in this hard time. You got to show up and work hard because you don't know what's coming. But be present where you are. Don't leave where you are.
Right.
And then add value. We can always add value.
Yep.
How are you going to add value today?
Well, I'm going to listen, actively listen. This is huge for me. I'm not very good at it, right? But when I leave here, there's at least a few meetings that remain for this day. And I'm going to listen before I speak. And I think that's going to add value because I want people to be heard.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. So thrilled at what God's done in your life and what he's doing, and that you're here on board as the new NICS president.
So happy.
Mr. Blake Weaver.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. This has been fun. Yeah, thanks for having a conversation with me, and love what you're doing at NorthStar. This is an amazing place. So many exciting things happening. A real unique and vital part of the network. I think you know that, but it is just amazing to have an online school in our network and to see all the ways that NorthStar really assists the network, supports it, but not just NICS. It's so much bigger than that, what you guys are doing. So keep up the great work.
Amazing kingdom work that I get blessed to do every day.
Awesome.
All right. Well, looking forward to the next 40 years.
I'm going to be
Am I going to live that long?
I don't know. I'm wondering the same thing.
What's next for NICS?
I think Dr. Hill started much earlier than I did.
Yeah. Especially me. All right. Thank y'all for listening today. It's been so fun. Thank you, Mr. Weaver.
Very welcome. My pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you so much for listening today. If you have any questions for our guest or would like information about NorthStar, please email us at podcast@nsa.school. We love having guests on our show and getting to hear their stories. If you have anyone in mind that you think would be a great guest to feature, please email us and let us know. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on upcoming stories.